your first alert, hour-by-hour forecast for your Saturday talks about the increasing clouds, but not going to mention the snow until after the sun goes down, and it starts off light. The heaviest, I think, will hold off until after midnight and happen for a couple of hours at least. That's when we can really start to see it accumulate. It'll be a blowing and drifting sort of snow, and so it'll be very powdery. First alert future scan, keep your eye on the clock, keep your eye on the bottom of your screen. That's where we see the first little wave of light snow. Also look at the heavier patch by that darker shade of blue, and also look at where it is. About in line with future storm watch will obviously let you know if the system changes any bits. Here's a look at the first alerts, 9-day forecast, 2 first alert weather days. That would be Sunday because of the snow, Monday because of the bitter. 20 to 31 degrees, don't forget the harsh.
Unfortunately, on this particular clip I'm showing here, this freezing drizzle heading, this clip was taken on February, it was a Saturday night, February of 2018. I lost the audio, but here he's showing here, this meteorologist is showing the icy conditions, and the overnight temperatures here are in the teens. Again, unfortunately, I lost the audio on this, but you can see the graphics here, and then you'll see where that pink represents freezing drizzle. And I'm going to show you the color coding he has above on this upper screen, and then he'll show the radar, which I believe is he is blatantly showing microwave activity that's melting with the blue color code snow into the pink freezing drizzle with temperatures in the teens. Okay, now you compare that to the forecast that I showed prior, where we'll have here forecast snow, and the temperature is 28 degrees snow, which is where it should be. You should get snow at 28 degrees. But here we are, we're having freezing drizzle in the temperatures in the teens. Clearly, the precipitation is being melted from above. And again, he's showing microwave signatures on his radar. Telltale sign of precipitation being manipulated.
Show my own graphic here. Snow, which will fall from the altitude anywhere between 6,000 to 8,000 feet. You know, at below 10 degrees Fahrenheit temperature, you got EMS flowing through to melt the snow and slowly liquefying it as it continues to fall closer to ground level. The snow starts to melt completely over into rain as the EMFs continue to provide the heat source, the warm air, liquefying the snowflakes. And by the time it gets 1,000 feet or so, it's falling down straight cold rain. And that cold rain refreezes into the ground surface being sub-freezing. Hits the ground as a solid liquid, straight liquid I should say, and then refreezes over into ice. Is the process in which is being carried out. It will be illustrated here by this meteorologist from the Weather Channel, coming right up.
Check out this blizzard. I am up in the clouds, way up as a matter of fact, about 6,500 feet. It's a long way down there. Snow's flying all over the place, and oh, wait for it. Yes! Thunder snow, baby. How do I always get myself in these situations? We'll save that for a second. All right, listen. This is a monster winter storm, but there's a wrinkle in the forecast. Let's take this down a little closer to the ground, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, there is so much warm air feeding into this bead that these falling snowflakes are actually melting. In fact, most of the precipitation around me is rain, which is not good because down near the ground and up the ground, we've got temperatures holding at 29 degrees. The cold air is so dense, it remains locked in place. The warm air has to go up and over that cold air, and the rain doesn't have time to refreeze into sleep pellets. So now, we have to deal with accumulating ice. Just a tenth of an inch makes roads and sidewalks extremely slippery. A quarter of an inch could break branches and cause spotty power outages. And once you're over a half inch, serious problems ensue. Ice storms can cause billions of dollars in damage. They can hit ground transportation, aviation, and power sectors really hard. I mean, just look at these power lines. All right, those icicles must be... Oh, gee. You've got to be kidding me. Where did that come from? That giant icicle just fell from the cell tower. These ice missiles can reach speeds of 90 miles an hour and land 1,000 pounds of force. Just look around. Ice collects on everything. Look at...
You don't expect thunder when you have frozen precip in a form, but Michelle, that's a convection reaction, correct?
It's basically a thunderstorm that's happening. It just happens that the temperatures at the surface are at or below the freezing mark. Therefore, as the heavy rains pour down and as sleet pours down, it's coming at a very fast, intense rate because there is the convection going on. So.
Mark Alford acknowledged the thunder is a result of the effect of convection. He did not really acknowledge what the convection source was. We are to assume that he's talking about lightning, but since when does lightning and thunderstorms become the norm for a winter storm? Okay, we can say this is a fulfillment of Enoch chapter 80, when all things on earth shall be altered. And also we can give credit to the fact that geoengineers can produce this lightning strike through weather drones, EMFs, to give this instantaneous rise in temperatures, this extreme heat source entering into a cold atmosphere, displacing the cold air, causing an expansion of cold air to give the thunder effect that reverberates off of the dome. And Michelle Bogle was very hesitant to acknowledge, she acknowledges sleet and rain falling at a fast rate, and then she hesitates and says because of convection. But I think she realized how close she was into being forced to explain why there is a heat source, why the convection is actually occurring in the first place. But she avoided it, the very slick maneuver, and I really don't blame her for it because it's not in their script to give the details as far as the source of the convection event.
Michelle, that's a convection reaction, correct?
It's basically a thunderstorm that's happening. It just happens that the temperatures at the surface are at or below the freezing mark. Therefore, as the heavy rains pour down and as sleet pours down, it's coming at a very fast, intense rate because there is the convection going on. So.
Now back to the meteorologist from the Weather Channel giving his illustrations of being at 6,500 feet in elevation, and he experiences this lightning strike and a thunder, but he doesn't acknowledge that is an extremely abnormal event. He doesn't acknowledge that at 6,500 feet he should not be at 28 degrees Fahrenheit, as he shows. That the proper temperature range would be somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The exact would be 3.3 times 65 times 6.5 will give you a temperature drop of 21.4 degrees. So that would put the proper elevation temperature at 6,500 feet at about 6.5 degrees. And very extremely cold. So, but he has it, of course, shown there at 28 degrees Fahrenheit. They can't afford to show, to illustrate the 6.5 degree Fahrenheit temperature at 6,500 feet will suddenly increase. The temperature would increase, and no doubt would have to go over 60 degrees to melt the snowflakes into a liquid form, and then fall down at ground temperature and to refreeze, at ground temperature, which is sub-freezing, 28 degrees. They can't afford to really illustrate that as for what it really is. He voices it as if it's a natural occurrence because he says there's so much warm air in the atmosphere. Of course, not telling us where the warm air is coming from, but the warm air is convection. The convection is from a heat source which is man-made. The man-made convection superheats the atmosphere, causing the cold air to expand due to the extreme heat, and that gives us the thunderclap, and of course melts the snow to fall as a liquid and then refreezes on contact. A completely unnatural event by design, and it has the desired effect. As he is shown, he's showing all the effects of the power lines and whatnot being frosted over. And again, a desired effect according to Agenda 21. This is early morning of January 18th, 2020 at 2:30 a.m. Just finished up a limo shift. I'm here at the apartment in my own vehicle, and I am showing outside temperature. That is real temperature. This car is very accurate. Maybe a degree off. It is 43 degrees at 2:30 a.m. Some 16 hours after the freezing rain event. 16 hours, yeah. When the temperature mid-morning was sitting at 29 degrees. The evening got warmer after the sun went down. Here we are, 2:31 a.m. on Saturday, January 20th, 2020. We're sitting at 43 degrees, people. Heat source in the sky at midnight, in the middle of the night. And there are some fog issues, of course. Heat source and cool temperatures will cause fog. And that's what's happening. There is something in the sky, whether it be EMFs, whether it be drones, whether it be a combination of all. It should not be 43 degrees. 2:30 a.m. 2:31 a.m. January 18th morning. In the Book of Enoch Chapter 80 reads, I'll start with verse 2, and in the days of the sinners the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields. And all the things on earth shall be altered, and shall not appear in their time. And the rain shall be kept back, and the heavens shall withhold. And in those days the fruits of the earth shall be backward, and shall not grow in their time. And the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. And I'm going to stop right there. That was verse 3. Now, I want to just put out the possibility of, these geoengineers manufacture weather. I am now of the opinion that they are doing it because of these passages I just read from the Book of Enoch. But we are. Verse 2 in chapter 80 of the Book of Enoch. And in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened, meaning the sun is trekking short. It's later than we think, people. Geoengineers know it. They obviously cannot afford to let the public know, because these gatekeepers, the watchers, definitely do not want us to realize the reality of creation, the reality of firmament, and the Almighty Creator directly above us with sharp distance. They absolutely do not want us to be aware of that. I believe in time they're going to come up with a rationale. They may even finally admit flat earth. They may admit true creation. They will conjure a story of a victory, a so-called victory over the Most High. Yeah, I believe they will go that far and this may coincide with the ushering in of the Antichrist. Now, I know that kind of contradicts the whole narrative, the common narrative that truthers hold to as far as planet Earth being the main vehicle. The whole solar system deception will be the easier way to usher in Antichrist. Regarding the alien invasion, they will claim that the God of heaven, the God of the King James Version Bible, no longer exists. Needing to admit to creation, perhaps the solar system alien invasion may not work. So I think Plan B will be to acknowledge creation, the reality of it, and they will have no problem proving that they have been playing God with this weather modification issue. And this will no doubt convince those who are not committed to the truth that they have replaced the Almighty. And then they will say, well, this is the reason why we hid the creation from you, because it would have been too big of a shock. We wanted to just implement this whole reality to you in phases. And they'll blame truthers for wanting to, have a scare tactics and all that, for acknowledging the truth ahead of time. Something to that effect. Now, this may sound a little convoluted, but I can actually see these words having a Plan B to acknowledge creation, to justify the actual complete manufacturing of weather, because based on verse 2 in chapter 80 of the Book of Enoch, and in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened, meaning the sun is trekking shorter, sunsets are quicker. Shortest day of the year is no longer the first day of winter. You might want to check your almanac on that. I want to cover that in another video, but it absolutely is not the shortest day of the year. And their sea shall be shortened. No, the sea shall be tardy in their lands, and the fields, and all things on earth shall be altered, and it shall not appear in their time, and the rain shall be kept back. I believe this is why the geoengineers produce the rain the way they do. I don't think it's a perfected method, but they are pretty there. They do what they need to do. They can predict it with pretty certain accuracy, but I do believe it's a little hit and miss sometimes. Sometimes I think when they overdump, it may not necessarily be on purpose. It may not necessarily always be an Agenda 21 issue, but I do believe that, again, not to repeat myself, that they will come clean and admit the reality of creation, but they will lie. They will claim that the God of heaven, the God of the King James Version Bible, no longer exists. That's all I got on this segment.